Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome to another live episode of McCall Media TV with myself, Angela McCall. And today I am talking about retargeting adverts. And in fact, this actually became a request yesterday from Nicola Richardson, who happened to see my video on SEO and paid adverts. And in the comments, she asked me, basically, how does this affect, or the advertising aspect of things, how does this affect retargeting? So you can go check that out for yourself if you want. That was yesterday's video. So in order to answer Nicola's question today, I'm going to be talking to you about retargeting adverts. So there's quite a few things I want to get covered. So the first thing that I want to actually say is, okay, let's discuss what retargeting adverts are actually all about. So if you have experienced this, and you probably have, you've either been conscious of it or on a subconscious level, but maybe let's say, for example, you want to go and buy a children's bike. And you go to various different websites online, checking out the prices, looking at the different styles and bikes and this, that, and the other. And you're surfing some different products. And then over the next couple of hours, I don't know, you go make a cup of tea, go do some other things. You come back and online, it doesn't matter where you go or what other websites you visit, somehow pictures of those bikes that you looked at seem to be following you around the internet. They're kind of stalking you. And that, my friends, is retargeting. And in this video today, I am basically going to explain at sort of a very high top level sort of overview of what that is and how that actually affects you. So for example, excuse me. Right. So how does retargeting adverts actually work? Now, I'm going to use Facebook as a bit of an example because Facebook is probably the easiest way to set up a retargeted advertising campaign. So there's various different aspects to retargeting, but essentially what you are doing is you are sending paid adverts like you would set up any other type of advertising campaign, but the audience that you are sending them to are people that you know have already visited your website. Okay, so how do you know that they've already visited your website? Well, there are little things called obviously cookies and that kind of thing, but with Facebook they call it a pixel, and it's a little bit of code that the owner of the Facebook page will put on their website. So for example, McCall Media TV, I've got a McCall Media TV Facebook business page and an account with Facebook for business purposes. So I can go and set up a little bit of a pixel, which is a bit of code that I drop into the header of my website. So it doesn't matter what page on my website you are visiting, I know that you've been there if you have a Facebook account. Now, when I say I know, I don't personally get to know because there's the whole data protection thing. But what happens is when you own a Facebook account, Facebook is clocked into lots of different resources to know all sorts of different things about you behind the scenes. Okay. Now, this isn't a discussion today about the morals of this. If you don't like it, I suppose the best thing to do is walk with your feet, as it were, and turn off your Facebook account or don't use it or whatever. But for example, Facebook knows if you've gone and bought a coffee from Costa Coffee. So if I was selling coffee, for example, I could actually design a Facebook advertising campaign that specifically targets fans of Costa Coffee. Okay, so now that you've kind of got the principle of that, basically let's come back to the retargeting of adverts. So basically, I know when you've been on my website that I can go into my Facebook account and I can have a look at my audience groups. Now, my audience groups, one of those will have been fed, or shall we say grown, through the pixel. And I won't get to see Tom, Dick and Harry listed on there. What I'll see is something like a number of, 365 people who have visited my website in the last 3 months, for example. Obviously, I can time frame that. And from that, Facebook knows who those people are. And what I can do is I can then set up a paid advertising campaign, and instead of just picking out any kind of geographical or interest or hobby that I would have used otherwise to target an audience, or target my adverts to, I can actually say, go and send this advert to just those people that I know have actually been on my website, viewed my products and services. And from that, I can basically run an advertising campaign. Now, the reason it works so quickly, especially with very, very large firms, if you can imagine the difference between them and smaller businesses like me, is that they've got teams and armies of people running their marketing campaigns. And there will be somebody specifically dedicated to running these type style adverts and campaigns. And they're probably clocking things on a 24-hour basis. So they're probably looking at what's the most popular pages on their websites in the last 48 hours, and it will come up with something like children's bikes, and they'll be like, right, for all the visitors in the last 48 hours or 24 hours, let's run another advertising campaign, because we know it's hot right now. We know that these people have a need because they're looking right now. And that's how these adverts will then suddenly appear. And of course, when you're placing these adverts, now I was talking about Facebook, so in this sense, those adverts would be coming back onto you on a Facebook account. So as you're surfing through your timeline, and you'll be like, oh, there's the bike. But the same principle works across the internet on all sorts of different providers. So if, as a website owner, I also wanted to allow Google to run adverts on my website, for example, as a monetization, if I was a blogger, this is a very good way of me earning some money. When I'm talking about products, I can allow Google to put adverts on my website in strategic locations. But Google decides those adverts, and the way that it decides those adverts, it's based on the people asking to send adverts out, and then there's a whole algorithm going on there. So basically, if I was, I don't know, let's say the marketing director of something like Halfords, with all these bikes being viewed at the moment, and I decide to run an advertising campaign or get my marketing guru to do so, they could send out adverts through the Google's campaigns, as it were, to anybody like me that has adverts on or permitted on their website to earn money through them on the clicks. And that's how that advert would suddenly appear on somebody else's very random website. And you'll be like, how does that happen? You know, I feel like I'm being literally stalked. And it's essentially a way of stalking. Now, the adverts that you are seeing when you are visiting other websites, I mean, you could be on a completely different site. It could be to do with shopping. It could be to do with, I don't know, flying kites. It could be completely unrelated. But because of the Google programs that have the adverts running, they have an algorithm in the background that basically kind of helps identify you to some respects with regards to IP addresses and that kind of thing. So it can help fine tune, and also obviously there's a lot of influence as to what the topic is on the site that you're focused on and that kind of thing. So there's lots of, basically what I'm saying, there is lots of different attributes that affect how these algorithms work. But essentially, this is what retargeting adverts is all about. It's about basically following or sending out a paid advertising campaign to people that have already known about you. Now, the powerful thing about this, if you think really logically from a business's point of view, is that you know that these people have been on your site. You know that they have been visiting your bikes page. You know that they've been looking at kids' bikes. So already you've got a lot of information there that you can talk about. So when you do run your adverts, you're not just singing now from the top of the rooftops to anybody that can actually hear you in a certain distance. You're laser focused targeting your adverts to specific people that you know have that urgent need, which means that you can be very, very clever in the wording, the photos, the images, your headlines, your titles, your calls to actions, the whole bundle that makes up that advert. And you can fine tune it all the way down to resonating with a parent who is trying to buy their young son, daughter a bike. And obviously from that, what you can do is you can put images that resonate of kids having fun on these beautiful bikes on a nice sunny day, family bike rides, things that are going to appeal to the parent who's obviously holding the purse strings. And you can, you can talk about the emotional words and those triggers that basically make the sort of happy feel factor about why they should be buying that bike with you. And of course, then you follow the advert with a call to action, which generates a click back to your website page where the sale takes place. And that really is how the whole retargeting structure works. Now, it's something that sounds quite complex. Once you've done it 1 or 2 times, it becomes a lot more powerful and a lot more simpler. And what you've also got to bear in mind is that if you are a small business owner, which most people that I'm working with are, they're generally businesses that have less than 10 employees, more than like husband and wife teams, solopreneurs, sole traders, very new or young limited companies. You're not going to have huge amounts of traffic to be able to sort of embrace and adopt that sort of 48-hour, 24-hour turnaround. So this is what you need to do instead. When you first launch your website, get your pixel from Facebook, at least Facebook, up and running on your site. Okay, because literally from day one, you can be monitoring the different people or through Facebook who are visiting your website. Okay, I think it's about 180 days that you can track back through. I can't remember the exact date. It's been a wee while since I've actually done a retargeted advert, but essentially that is a history of visitors over maybe 3, 4, 5 months. Okay, so when you are in a position a couple of months down the line after you've launched your business and your website and things are starting to fall together, you can basically start running some adverts. And instead of running an entirely cold campaign out to people that you've never known, and you are literally just guessing and using a process of elimination to fine tune that audience base down, and you're picking hobbies and you're trying to guess their income straight and, geographical locations, depending on what you're selling and that kind of thing, you can actually send out an advert to people that have visited my site in the last 6 months. But the next step that you can do on top of that, especially with Facebook, is that they have a service called a lookalike. So what that basically means is that you can bump up that visitor list. So say, for example, over the last 3 months since you launched your website, you've had 500 visitors. And from that, Facebook can do a sort of an algorithm in the background that kind of works out what your average avatar visitor looks like. Okay, it could be that they are male, 45 years old, they earn over 60k a year, they drive a BMW, and they live in XYZ type style houses. Facebook will know all of that. You won't get to know so much of that. But what I'm trying to say is, if you run a lookalike on your actual pixel list of audiences that basically have visited you, Facebook will work out who that average person is. And then it will go and find, depending on how you make the settings, anybody else that matches that same kind of sort of stereotypical average visitor to your site, and it will go and find all those others, and then you can narrow it down by geographical location or whatever. So you don't want to necessarily sell to the States. What you want to do is sell to people in the UK, so you could just ask for the UK or England or your county or whatever it is, so that you can target the number down to something that's a lot more realistic for a small business. And that is a very, very powerful way, because chances are, if Joe Blogs wants to buy a bike for his daughter, his daughter is going to circulate with kids the same age. Probably chances are that parents are going to bump into each other and know each other at the school gate. So when it's running this lookalike, it will go and search through the friends and the connections, see who also fits that match that's connected, and it generally works back. And there's always a way that everything kind of fits together, and that's generally how the lookalike program works. And then of course you can run a fresh advertising campaign to the lookalike group, and so on and so on and so on. So that's what retargeting adverts are. It's like paid advertising on Superpowers. It is essentially for want of a better term, stalking your audience live, as it were, through the internet, depending on where they go and what websites they go on. And from a business perspective, it is incredibly powerful, because you are not sending out adverts cold to an audience that know nothing about you. You know that the people that are basically receiving your advertising campaign are hot right now because they've been on your site recently. They have a demand right now because they are literally looking for XYZ products, because you can tell that through your site. And of course, you can then fine tune the wording and the images in your adverts to be able to speak their language, speak to their wants and needs right now, and really resonate with them. And of course, that all feeds through, and that's generally how the retargeting process works when they land back at your website and they make that purchase. So if you've got any questions on this today, please do sort of pop them below. I do use the hashtag, which you might be scrolling across the bottom now, called Ask McCall Media, and I've got some Google alerts set up up so that no matter which platform, social media network and whatnot you use, I will get a little message in my inbox to say, somebody's asking you a question, Angela, go look. So that's how I found a couple of these today. I've got another viewer's question for tomorrow about the audio that I'm using at the moment. And I'm going to do it as a kind of a part A and a part B, because my fabulous freestanding microphone, so I can get rid of my dodgy headset, hasn't arrived from Amazon yet, so I still need to chase that down. So I'm going to do the before and then what it will be like in a few weeks' time when I have a different get up, shall we say. So that's what I've been up to this week. So enjoy your bank holiday. Thank you very much for watching yet another episode of McCall Media TV. It does actually mean a huge amount to me. And if you would be so kind as to subscribe and stay notified to me, especially on YouTube, so that you get those alerts. I'm trying to go live daily, and I am desperate to know what it is in the digital marketing world right now. As a small business owner, you are finding a constant niggle, irritation, whatever, and I will happily try and answer it for you. So that's it for me today. Thank you very much, and make sure you basically subscribe to my channel. Bye-bye.